The following video is for commentarial, analytical and critical purposes only, and is protected by Articles 17 and 107 in the United States Fair Use Code.
This video is not a violation of copyright laws and is in no way any form of infringement of copyright.
For more info, please visit this address to the DMCA PDF.
Before I do get into this video, there's a couple of things I do want to address. First of all, this video will be completely spoiler-free, so those who for any given reason have not seen Turning Red, don't worry, I will completely unspoil it for you, because I'll go into a bit more as to why I'm not mentioning certain things yet. But the other thing I do want to mention, I do have a logical reason behind why I ended up doing what I did, but I'm going to explain that right now. So hey, it's Harry Husky, and it felt inevitable that I would have to make a video about Turning Red at some point, so, well, here we are. Now, sure that you may all be aware that the COVID-19 pandemic has caused the film industry to adapt with the restrictions and measures in place. I mean, considering the fact that pretty much the whole world was shut down back in spring of 2020, places weren't allowed to open, mainly given cinemas, because that's where most of the film industries make their big income. But as you may be aware, that's because cinemas weren't allowed to open during those times, it kind of made a game changer for the way films ended up distributing themselves, if you kind of get what I mean. So what started this all was when cinemas did close down, film industries and film studios left the option for people to rent them on video downloading websites, for example like Apple TV, iTunes Store, Google Play Store, also on Amazon Prime. They made their films available to rent at home across various different platforms and various different online stores. Now, the first movie I can recall doing this on the top of my head was Trolls World Tour, of all films. And ever since then, it's kind of changed the way films are distributed nowadays. I mean, of course you have got Netflix, you've got all other streaming services like Prime and Disney Plus, which I will get to in a bit, and that's the reason why I'm making this video about Turning Red. But in terms of studios that don't have a streaming service of their own, they're able to get their films across different stores, and people are able to sit at the comfort at their own home without having to wait to go out to the cinema, and with how uncertain things are. Because I know that some people are a bit self-conscious when it comes to going out during the pandemic. I mean, I was myself personally. Like, for example, you did have a lot of restrictions. You had masks, you had social distancing, which I didn't go to a cinema while those restrictions were in place because I was too worried that both would dampen down the experience. So I kind of waited until I was vaccinated and when all restrictions in cinemas were lifted, so that it could kind of give me more of a confidence boost to go out and see them on a big screen for so long. After so long, sorry. The last time before COVID restrictions I went to see a movie was a Disney movie, and it was Onward, which was currently the last Pixar movie to get a theatrical release. And in terms of the recent Pixar movies, there is quite a bit I have to say on those. So it managed to get into cinemas just before they closed down, and I did manage to see it just before cinemas and pretty much the whole entire world ended up shutting down. But moving on to December with Soul. I can't comment on Soul because I haven't actually seen it yet, but it was scheduled to be released in cinemas, but because with further variants coming in during that stage of the pandemic, it caused local restrictions in place. You had local lockdowns all over the world, you had different tiers in the UK, I think they might have had different tiers in other parts of the world. So depending on where you are, not so much in the world, but wherever you were in your country, cinemas may not have been allowed to open. And of course, this resulted in Disney releasing their movie exclusively on Disney Plus. Now, normally I would be pretty irritated with a movie that was originally made for cinemas, then gets put onto a streaming service, and that gets called a streaming service name original. But however, in this circumstance, I can perfectly understand that, given the uncertain times and how difficult things were around the world at that time. And it would have made better sense then, because of the fact that not even 2 weeks after it was released on Disney Plus, parts of the world, including mine, went into a fresh new lockdown. And this happened while the vaccination programme was rolling out. So while vaccines were being distributed, it was giving me that glimmer of hope that we were getting closer and closer to a normal life, which thankfully ended up being the case. And coming up to June in 2021, we would have had Luca. So Luca was the second film from Pixar to be released during COVID restrictions. And I do actually have Luca on DVD, by the way, because I don't want to end up giving my money to Disney+. And again, this is another reason why I'm making this video. So Luca was released in June of 2021, but was scheduled to release in cinemas. However, despite them being open pretty much mostly all over the world, it ended up going straight to Disney+. I think I have shown a video of how I exactly felt about this, but here it is again.
You think this is funny?
In a cosmic sort of way, yes.
Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby... Oh my goodness! Squidward!
To say that I was annoyed and irritated would be just an understatement, because I was actually looking forward to seeing Luca, and then when I found out that Disney Plus were putting it on their streaming service, I was just... I have so many words for that I'd be here all day throwing them at this camera, so I'd better just move on. Now, what was even more annoying about that was the fact that they called it a Disney Plus original, even though it was not made for Disney Plus. It was made to be released in cinemas. So for the fact that Disney are claiming this to be a Disney Plus original, technically is false advertising. It was such a long wait, and I was seeing all the fan art and some of the memes. Thankfully they weren't spoilers, but it was just gutting, because you know when Squidward is looking outside of his window and SpongeBob and Patrick are running around having so much fun. That's pretty much what I felt when it came to Luca. Everyone else who had Disney Plus, but me, and I was just sat here not having so much, but just seeing the memes and missing out on so much. And thankfully, Luca did end up being released on DVD, which I do now own a copy of, by the way. And I did actually really enjoy Luca. I love the story. It was not because of the cultural capture, if you get what I mean by that. It felt something fresh, new, and different from Pixar. And I always like to see Pixar trying new things. So after that, we roll on to 2022, and Pixar's next film would be the one that I'm sure you all know of by now and needs no introduction, Turning Red. So the trailer dropped for Turning Red in the autumn, I think it was, and it was scheduled to be released in theatres in March of 2022. Now, at that time, COVID restrictions in the UK were pretty much non-existent. Well, domestic was anyway. For example, masks, physical distancing, limited capacities, they were all scrapped in the summer of 2021, and pretty much cinemas were allowed to be full to the brim, and people have clearly shown that, it's given me hope for the film industry as well as the cinema industry, that the amount of people who are flocking to the cinemas after these restrictions, which shows how much they have missed the cinemas and how much confidence they have going back to these places, and to be in that cinema with so many people makes it so much more atmospheric and adds so much more to the movie for me. And I know that when I do watch them back at home, it is a completely different experience from how I watched it then. But now at this time, the whole entire other parts of the world were slowly easing on restrictions. For example, the limits on capacities as well as physical distancing, but masks did remain in other parts of the world. So with parts of the world opening up more, and we saw a few more restrictions being taken away in other parts of the world, it gave me that glimmer of hope that I was finally going to see a Pixar movie on the silver screen for the first time in 2 years. Unfortunately,
Disney and Pixar's Turning Red will stream exclusively on Disney Plus beginning the 11th of March.
What the f*** was that?
okay, I don't even know what the hell that was I put together, but yeah, I think I was so many things when I found out that Turning Red was being released exclusively on Disney Plus, and then calling it a Disney Plus original. However, what made that more infuriating was the fact that they are doing this even though in most other parts of the world at the time, social distancing measures and limited capacities were pretty much non-existent. And around the globe in most countries, cinemas were allowed to be full to the brim. So Turning Red could have earned Disney so much at the box office, but instead no, they abandoned the cinemas and they went and, yeah, I gotta be really careful what I say. I'm only just trying to be careful what I say because I know that this is about a Disney movie and I know this is about a family film, and I'm trying to keep it as clean as I possibly can. I don't want to end up saying anything that, well, kids are very likely to be watching this. So I was so much more infuriated about this compared to Luca because they did this, putting it on Disney Plus exclusively, at a time and in places in the world where COVID restrictions are pretty much non-existent. I mean, why didn't they release it in the UK, where people are just pretty much living as if COVID is over, as if COVID has never happened? Which is pretty alarming, I have to say, but it's just the fact that Disney are going to, at this rate, be a bigger threat to cinemas than piracy ever was. Speaking of which, so with absolutely no way of seeing Turning Red on the big screen, and it's on a streaming service that I'm actively boycotting because of these decisions made by Disney and Disney Plus overall, I do not support and I do not want to financially encourage or support this. So with all of the memes and all the fan arts, this time round, compared to Luca, were actually spoilers, and they were constantly unavoidable. I would see them pop up in my social media feeds, on my Facebook, on my Twitter. Wherever I would go on the socials, there would be Turning Red spoilers. So, with me in that position, what choice am I left with? What else could I possibly do?
You force me to do something I really don't want to do.
Where are we?
Yar har fiddle-dee-dee, being a pirate is a wretched deed. Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
I hope you're happy.
So yeah, as you probably would have guessed, this resulted in me watching Turning Red on a third-party website, which is something I probably shouldn't even admit I'm doing, but I wanted to do this. I wasn't doing this to get a free movie. I was doing this purely because I was left with no choice. I was sitting here with so much... I was sitting here constantly being spoiled. I had to let myself in on this and see what the hell everyone was even talking about it. And then I finally saw what the big fuss was about. Now, for obvious reasons, I'm not going to name the sites it was on, but all I will say is that Turning Red's third-party copy was a very easy find. And this is a bigger problem with streaming services like Disney Plus. Because what streaming services like Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, and if another studio makes a streaming service plus, for example, if we get DreamWorks Plus, which I'm hoping doesn't end up being the result, these streaming services are opening the heavenly gates to these third-party websites, and it's allowing them to get access and capture such crystal clear copies. They don't have any sound issues, they don't have any quality issues, and they actually sound so good through a Dolby Atmos surround sound system. And what makes this more alarming about these streaming services and how much it's opening the gates to these pirating websites, or third-party websites as I prefer to call them, because I like to think of third-party and pirating two very different things. So basically, I like to think of pirating as, you know, when you go to a cinema and you film the back row of the cinema, to quote from Phone Jacker.
I was going to come down with film crew and film from back of cinema.
So pretty much that sums it up, and the fact that that's going on in parts of the world where copyright laws and piracy laws are pretty much non-existent. So, yeah. But a massive problem with services like Disney Plus is the fact that, just look at this footage. The footage that I have actually been showing you ever since I got to the Turning Red segment of this video is from the third-party website, and as you can see, it is so crisp, it is so crystal clear, it is so clean, and the audio is all of the same things as well.
It's just some, inconvenient genetic thingy I got from my mom. I mean...
So because Disney Plus is opening the heavenly gates in this way to these websites, people who just want a free movie, which isn't the reason why I watch Disney Plus, I will get to the bottom line in a bit, but streaming services, because of this reason alone, because of the heavenly gates they open up, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, and whatever the hell Plus will come along in the future, are going to be a bigger threat to cinemas than piracy ever was. And for that reason, I cannot support this. Disney Plus is a streaming service that I am not giving any of my money to because of decisions that they have made in terms of releasing films, in terms of calling them Disney Plus originals, and the fact that they have done so many things at times when COVID restrictions have been non-existent, is not something I want to financially support, and it's not something that I want to financially encourage. And the same actually applies to Paramount Plus for similar reasons, mainly because involving how they've acted around the film Rumble, which they have pulled similar moves that Disney Plus have. And before anyone asks, no, I have not seen Rumble yet, and I don't really have that much intention of watching it because of some of the stuff that I have heard about it. I haven't heard great things about it. I've heard more mediocre and generic things about it. So bottom line is, the only reason why I watched Turning Red on a third-party website was just to show that Disney Plus is going to be a much bigger threat to the cinema industry and the film industry in general than piracy ever was and ever will be. But the question is, are Disney going to learn from this? Probably not. And I swear to God, if they do the same to this...
And
all I have to say is, heaven help their servers. Because the thing about Lightyear is that Disney have no valid reason whatsoever to release it on Disney Plus, and they have absolutely no audacity whatsoever to call it a Disney Plus original. Because now that we're seeing it in theatres and cinemas across the globe, and we are pretty much given a date, June 2022, because I saw it twice when I went to view cinemas in the past 2 weeks, and something like Lightyear, just look at it, it was made for the big screen. I want to see Lightyear, how it looks through that 4K projector. I want to hear how it sounds through a Dolby Atmos surround sound system. I really want to see Lightyear so bad on a cinema screen and have such an atmosphere around with people around me for it. It's... to say it would be a travesty would definitely be an understatement, and I have absolutely no time and patience for Disney Plus, because with Turning Red, if they did what they did and made it a Disney Plus exclusive at a time when we were in a lockdown and when cinemas weren't allowed to open, that I can understand. But because they are doing this at a time when cinemas are open, they're allowed to be full to the brim, and the fact that COVID restrictions in parts of the world don't seem to exist and people are taking baby steps to living with COVID, it's just completely baffling. So there you have it. That was the reason why I watched Turning Red on a third-party website, and if I do want to see Turning Red again, I'm definitely going to be buying it on DVD when it comes out, because I think it is out now on DVD in the UK. And if I do want to see a Disney movie, I'm definitely going to go to the cinema and see it, and I'm going to buy it on DVD if I really like it, like I did with Encanto, which I absolutely loved, by the way. So anyway, on that note, I'm running out of energy and I really need to get some food because of how long I've been recording this video. So this has been Harry Husky. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Mwah.